Welcome. I'm Juan P Lluria, president of Lluria Fine Art Services LLC, appraiser and broker, estate liquidator, and advisor to collectors. And today I'd like to share with you an interest I've always had in Chinoiserie, which is a very merry and uplifting art movement that really took off in the 18th century all over Europe, but very heavily in France and in England and in the Scandinavian countries, as well as Italy. The Venetians were particularly partial to it. And Chinoiserie, as you may already know or suspect from the name, implies an evocation of things inspired by China. The fun thing about Chinoiserie is that there's nothing Chinese about it. It only takes what the Western artisans and designers fancied was Chinese, and the way they thought Chinamen dressed, the habits in which they engaged, their costumes, their settings. So it was a completely European artistic movement that evoked Chinese customs and clothing and habits, but was in fact entirely European. In fact, you might say today, if you wanted to translate Chinoiserie, it would be, in the current street jargon, kind of Chinesey. It took forms in everything. There were whole pavilions made in Chinoiserie with lacquered walls. As you know, there was porcelain being made in Delft in blue and white that imitated Chinese styles. But today I'd like to just share with you the variety of small household objects that were made in the Chinoiserie style that can be found on the market to collectors on a more restrained budget. The first example I'd like to show you is this lovely French porcelain, Porcelain de Paris, Parisian factory of lesser fame than Sèvres, but no less qualified. And this is a cup and saucer, a large size coffee can, as was popular in the late 18th and early 19th century. This cup and saucer could date anywhere from about 1790 to 1810. And you'll see it has a very playful, brightly polychromatic, another typical trait of Chinoiserie. It's very bright in the color. A gentleman, and here you have another character, and these were all derived from engravings and tales of travelers who wrote about trips to China and people who traded with the East. But again, they weren't very accurate depictions of Chinese life. They were what Westerners wanted to imagine China was like. I'll set that aside, and I'd like to show you this lovely tôle cache-pot. This is early 19th century, and this, of course, has a wonderful yellow ground, and it depicts on both sides two Chinese vignettes. Here you have a pair of a Mandarin couple. Mandarins, of course, were the aristocracy of China. And here you have another scene on the back depicting possibly a scholar seated, surrounded by other characters. The character groupings were usually totally incongruous. And the ground is bright yellow, which is a very popular Chinese color, again with a lovely riot of polychrome floral decoration. And notice these whimsical tassels. And this, of course, would have been used for cooling wine glasses in the late 18th, early 19th century. The last group I'd like to share with you is this absolutely ravishing pair of a gentleman and lady playing musical instruments. These are 18th century style, but probably redone in the late 19th century, after 18th century models. But they're superbly done, and of course represent Chinoiserie in the form of terracotta sculpture. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed seeing a sampling of at least 3 items which represent Chinoiserie taste in collecting on a certain budget, and which can enliven any decor or any collection. These things, of course, were meant to enhance beautiful furniture. They were on tops of mantelpieces and on tops of tables in lovely French homes in the 18th and 19th century. And there's no reason why now, with the current interest in 20th century and the taste waning for these objects, there's no reason why collectors on a budget can't indulge themselves in buying beautiful objects like this when they're unappreciated and quite available at very affordable sums. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you next time.